Welcome to the 80-20 Baseball Podcast. Strike! The 80-20 Coaching Masterclass. Our weekly get-together where coaches go from new to good and good to great. Mastering the fundamentals and the art of coaching.
Welcome, everyone, to the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. This is Coach Bo, episode 300. Pumped up to be here. 300 episodes in, and there's no sign of slowing down. For our 300th episode today, we're staying with the theme of three topics with three key pieces of information, tips for each topic. Before we dive into that, big shout out to all the loyal listeners that have been here since the start, and a big shout out to all of you new listeners that have recently discovered this podcast. It is awesome to have all of you here. Those listeners that have been with us since the start or since the beginning, it's been really great getting to know a lot of you via your emails, your correspondence, your questions, sharing those success stories you've had. That has been an absolute blast. The goal moving forward for this podcast is to continue to improve, to build upon what we've already discussed, to optimize it, to continue to iterate, and so we can optimize this podcast for all of you great youth baseball coaches. This podcast is going to keep rolling. It's going to keep getting better. I feel very strongly that episodes 300 through 400 will be even better than those episodes that came before. Speaking of that, continuing to improve, get better, I'm scheduled to record an interview with a really great guest that is scheduled to be recorded this week. This guest has written 4 books on coaching youth baseball and has written countless articles for all the big baseball coaching publications out there. Hopefully we can get part 1 of that interview out to all of you next week. It's very likely going to be a 2-part interview, with each part being about 30 to 40 minutes. The topics that we're going to dive into that I think are really going to be very useful for every coach: between inning strategies, how to maximize the time between innings. Each game has a ton of time that is found between innings. So that will be one of the main topics. And the other topic we will dive into is the mental game and how, as coaches, we can communicate better so our players' mental game is elevated. All right, in today's episode, we will discuss a 3-step formula for approaching drills that you already use. Part 2, we will discuss a 3-step process for successfully handling all parents' complaints and concerns. And in part 3, I mentioned that I was going to bring this to you about a month ago. Coach Brad Neffendorf, head coach at LSU Shreveport, they recently completed a 59-0 season. I mentioned about a month ago, I was going to dig in and find out what are some things they might have done with more emphasis, and what are some things that they think, or Coach Neffendorf, in this case, thinks brought about a lot of that success that led to a perfect 59-0 season. That's insane, 59-0. So I'm going to share out the 3 things that I found Coach Neffendorf say. So this is straight from the horse's mouth. The 3 things that really stood out that he thinks had a massive impact on his success. And these are 3 things, of course, that are applicable to youth baseball. Of course, we wouldn't be discussing it here if it wasn't applicable to youth baseball. With that said, our goal is to have an advanced approach to coaching youth baseball. So we pull from all coaches where success can be found. So part 1, a 3-step formula for approaching drills that we already use. So if you have a drill that you really like, you have a drill that you've been using for a while, there's a 3-step formula for improving or approaching that drill. Of course, the free drill design guide over at 80-20 Baseball lays out all the steps you need to have to optimize a drill. It's a one-of-a-kind drill design breakdown. The 7 parts of elite drills are all talked about in that free PDF at 8020baseball.com. Number 1 on our 3-step formula for approaching drills that we already use. For example, if you had a drill last season that you really liked and you're looking forward to using it again this season, maybe in the fall, maybe in the winter, spring, we should first look to do that drill better. More specifically, we should first make it more game-like. Then we should look to optimize the difficulty ratio. That can be learned all about in section 4 of the free drill design guide. Also, to make our drill better, how can we make it a fun, competitive drill? How can we add some competitive spice to it in the form of a healthy competition? How can we gamify it? Also, how can we add a little razzle dazzle to it toward the end so kids can have a little fun with it? Simple example of that, turning double plays, the last rep or two, let the kids flip it behind their back to the other middle infielder to turn 2. Let them do some kind of fun trick play with that. Outfielders, let them dive for a few at the end of the fly ball drill. So add a little razzle dazzle toward the end. I wouldn't do more than a few reps of this, but this is a good way to add fun while also helping our players improve their skills. And lastly, look to make it safer. So look to remove any unnecessary safety risks. We're not trying to remove all safety risks. We're not going to bubble wrap our kids and lock them in their room. There will be risk, but how can we remove any unnecessary safety risks? Notice how I say unnecessary safety risks, not remove all safety risks. So number one, we're looking to do our drill better. How can we take the drill that we have and make it better? Number two, in our 3-step formula for approaching drills that we already use and like, do more of it or do less of it, depending on how much you've come to figure that play, that action, that skill, that thing happens in the game or impacts the players' and team success come game time. So you might need to do more of it. You might need to do less of it. And if you need to do more of it, find ways to scale up the quality game-like reps without adding a bunch of unnecessary safety risk. So number one, do it better. Number two, do more of it. With the caveat that maybe you might do less of it, even though it's a drill you really like. It may be something that happens once a game. Ground balls happen all game long. Pitching, hitting happens all game long. Base running happens all game long. Hook slides at home plate might happen once a game. So you got a great hook slide drill into home plate, and you've been doing that for 30 minutes every other practice. That would be one to look to scale down or do less of. So you got a drill you like. Let's make it better using those 5 things I mentioned. Number 2, do more of it. Find ways to scale up the reps. And number 3, even though you have a drill that you really like, there may be a better drill out there. We can't fall in love with the process. We need to trust the process, but we can't fall in love with our drills. We shouldn't quit on our drills too quickly. We need to let them play out. But if you have a drill that you like, but you've been doing it a while and it doesn't seem to improve the results as fast as you reasonably think it should, try something different. Try a different drill. Do you see another coach doing a drill that covers the same thing, but you think is just a better way of doing it? Don't be afraid to replace your drill that you like. Now, we should have patience with the drill that we're using. We need to trust that, give it some time, stick with it for a month or 2. But if you use the drill last season and you've come across a better drill over the off season, don't hesitate to put it in. Don't hesitate to swap it out. So you got a drill you really like, do it better. Number 2, do more of it. Number 3, you may just change that drill and swap it out with another one. Now, to make this as simple as possible, I have good news for all of you. To take all the guesswork out and to use an elite drill right from the get-go, I've put my 15 top drills plus some pitching drills on top of that. My top drills, I break them down on my 75-inch touchscreen. Each one comes with a PDF explaining how to run it, frequently asked questions coaches have asked, so you get quick answers to how to optimize that specific drill. And as a video breakdown, like I said, of me breaking down each part of the drill. And these videos are double edited to move fast, so you can learn a great drill ASAP. In fact, one of our listeners is a Little League president and is a coach of his own team. Watched the video and went out and implemented the drill the same day and said it ran better than any ground ball drill they had ever run. So 8020baseball.com, right there on the homepage, got the coaching plan. Speaking of which, I have a couple videos I'm going to be adding. I'm working with a Hall of Fame baseball coach. I already have one of the videos, and I'm looking to get a second one. One is a video of all of his top competitive drills. That would be bonus drills, extra drills to kind of spice up practice on top of those drills that are already in the coaching plan. And I'm also trying to get a video that breaks down the elite offenses he ran as a Hall of Fame coach, National Coach of the Year award winner. So working on that, and that will be added. So if you have the coaching plan already, if you buy it in the near future, those will just be added in at no extra charge. if you already have it. Once those are ready to rock and ready to put in, the price will go up when I add those in, but they are more than worth it. But again, I built the coaching plan to give all of you affordable access to an all-in-one coaching plan that even if you used, say, just half of it, you're going to get well more than twice your money's worth. I wanted to make it cheaper, bang for your buck, than anything else out there on the market. All right, so all my best drills are there at 8020baseball.com. Takes all the guesswork out for you. Direct path to success with all these drills. Let me share, now before we recap part one, let me share an example of a catching drill being more game-like. So the first step to making a drill better involves making it more game-like, optimizing the difficulty ratio, making it more fun, a little razzle-dazzle, gamify it, and remove any unnecessary safety risks. I wanted to add an example of a game-like adjustment to a catching drill that I like. When you're working on blocking pitches in the dirt, and I wanted to share this quick example before we move to the next part of this episode, because I do get the email from time to time that says, hey, coach, how do I make this more game-like? Or what are some tips for making things more game-like? So I wanted to add this one specific game-like adjustment to help get your mind thinking about it. So for example, when I run a catching drill and I'm working on blocking pitches in the dirt, at least a third of the pitches that I throw to my catchers, and typically I have two coaches throwing simultaneously, unless there's other stations or other things going on. I don't just have all my players standing around while one or two catchers is blocking balls. But while I'm running a ball in the dirt, blocking pitches drill with my catchers, at least a third of the pitches should be strikes or pitches that don't bounce, preferably high fastballs. Now, for younger levels, that's neither here nor there because every pitch is really just a fastball. But I avoid patterns. I randomize the pitches, making it game-like. Now, I even take my catching drill to another level with kids that are 11U through 14U, and I throw breaking balls without telling them breaking ball's coming. Now, in a game, they're going to know a pitch is coming because they called the pitch, but I make it even harder for those catchers by not even telling them that I'm throwing a breaking ball. So avoid patterns. Randomize how often you bounce the pitch. I watch a lot of videos of blocking drills, and the coach is literally just bouncing the ball every single time. And so the catcher just automatically drops the block, blocks. That's not how the game works. The catcher has no idea if the pitch is going to bounce or not until it's about halfway to the plate or even closer. But when we run a drill where every pitch is bouncing, that takes out the element of reaction, the reaction element, which is half the battle when it comes to catching and blocking balls in the dirt. The quick reaction, the quick read of that pitch bounce and where it bounces. So mix up how often the ball bounces. The ratio I like is a third of the pitches don't bounce, typically high up. Why high up, Coach Bo? Because I want to go the opposite. I want to keep my catchers as honest as possible. I want to go as far away from where the ball is typically going to go when it bounces. It's going low and in the dirt when it bounces. So to keep my catchers as honest as possible with this drill and to really challenge them, I throw high fastballs as the alternate random pitch. So they really have to work high to low. Again, I want my practices, my drills, for the most part, at least 30 to 40% of my drills harder than the game's going to be. Make games easier by making practices more challenging. Not the entire practice, but about a third of the practice should be more challenging than the typical game, give or take. So we don't just bounce the ball in the same spot to catchers. I work left, right, middle, and I do not tell them. The first couple reps, I might say, we're going to work left, we're going to work right, then middle. But after that, it's all random. It randomly bounces or it randomly doesn't bounce. It randomly is a pitch to the left, a pitch that they need to block to the right, or down the middle. It might be a pitch that bounces way out in front of them. It may be a pitch that bounces very close to them, just like it's going to happen in a game. I am not worried about the success rate being super high in this drill. I'm concerned with challenging the catchers and seeing that they're getting better and better as we move through the drill, and at least each time we do the drill. And I trust that it's going to lead to more success in the game. All right, so a 3-step formula for approaching drills that we already use. Number 1, do it better. Make it more game-like. Optimize the difficulty ratio. Make it a healthy competition. Gamify it. Add more fun to it. Some razzle-dazzle toward the end. Maybe a rep or two at the end. Let the kids have some fun. Let them fling it behind their back. And number 5, we're looking to reduce any unnecessary safety risks. The second part of our 3-step formula is do more of it. do more of it. If you have a drill you like, find ways to scale up the quality game like reps. There is a caveat to this. We may want to do less of the drill if after we've stepped back at the end of a season and say, hey, we really practice this drill a lot, but it only impacts a play or two like this in the game, or it only happens every third game. We want to back off how much we use that drill. But as long as we're allocating our practice time appropriately, we're looking to scale up the amount of quality reps we can get done within the specific time we've already allocated for that drill. So in the past, if you've used 20 minutes or 30 minutes, let's just say 20 minutes for that drill, find a way to get more quality game-like reps in that 20 minutes than you ever have before. The third step in the mindset that we should have when we're approaching drills that we already use is that we should be open to changing the drill, swapping it out. I'm not a big fan of adding more drills. I don't like stacking a bunch of drills at the youth baseball level for the same skill, for the same thing. Almost always I'll swap it out just because our time is so short and there's very little of it. But don't be afraid to swap it out if you find a drill that's markedly better than the one you're currently using. All right, so that's a 3-step formula for approaching drills that we're already using. All right, part 2 of the podcast, a 3-step process for successfully handling all parents' complaints and concerns. Number 1, make sure that the parent feels completely heard. This could be through a discussion, and it may take 10 or 15 minutes of them just talking and venting so they feel completely heard. An alternative to that would have them express their concerns or complaints via an email. This is good for a couple reasons. 1, it gets it in writing. 2, this allows them to vent while providing you with information to help better understand their perspective while not getting as much emotion into it. Conversations can get a little emotional, so it allows them to vent fully, put it on paper, and then allows you to read it, maybe read it again, digest it, and then sleep on it, and then come together for a solution. Number 2 on our 3-step process for successfully handling parent complaints and concerns, after the parent feels completely heard. A lot of times they just want to feel heard. After that, share your perspective. We should share our perspective, our position as the coach. Now, we need to be very sure to keep it as factual as possible. For example, with hitting, this could be OPS. Why do you hit Johnny 8th? Now, this is assuming that you're trying to you're optimizing your lineup's production, which isn't going to be the case at a lot of the youth levels. It's about getting an equal amount of at-bats to every kid that shows up to each practice and works hard. But let's say you're going into a tournament or it's all-stars. You could simply use OPS, on base plus slugging. This percentage is easily found on Game Changer. This is easy to do with a calculator. And you could share that out with the parent and say, hey, look, Joey's OPS, which is the key metric we use to set our lineup, it says that we should slot him 8th. And that's the best fit for our lineup. You could also use something like the percentage of practices attended, the percentage of preseason and off-season workouts attended, assuming that they didn't have other commitments that were legit. Let's just say they went on a bunch of vacations or they just didn't feel like coming to these. You could share that and your perspective on that. Your position as a coach could and should be using as much factual information as possible. So first, we hear out the parent's complaint fully, and you may have to sit there and hear things you don't want to hear, you don't agree with. Just breathe, hear it all out, and know this is the fastest way to get to a solution and everybody's happy, or at least to the best possible outcome, given the circumstances. Then share your perspective, your position as the coach. You might want to sleep on this. You might want to do a little homework research to make sure that you have some facts to present. Look to find commonalities with the concerns and your position and their concerns, trying to link them up so it sounds and comes across like you're on the same page here. And that leads me into number 3, partner with them to build a success plan, a plan for success, a solution, a win-win plan. Make sure you use words like we or phrases like, hey, we're on the same team here. We're all one team. I'm going to work with you. We're teammates on this. We're partners on this. I want this to be a win-win for everybody. I want this to be a win for Joey. I want this to be a win for the team. This can be a win-win. Let's work towards a win-win success plan. Now, a tip on this when we're dealing with parent complaints and concerns or parents that are a problem, separate the player, the kid, from the parents. Because you as a coach, you may not get along with the parents of a player, or you may disagree, or you may not like the parents of one of your players. Or if you've had some conflict with one of the parents of a player, don't let that carry over into how you treat the kid. Treat the kid good. He's a kid. It's not the kid. Keep the kid separate. Separate the kid from the parents. Of course, I'm not talking like your CPS here. I'm talking about in your mind, look at the kid as his own entity, his own being. Now, when you're setting up your team and you're putting your team together and building your team, it is a package deal at that point. But once the team's together, or if you take over a team that's already put together, you have to do a really good job of separating the kid from the parent in your mind. They're 11 years old. They're 9 years old. Don't punish the kid because you don't get along with their parents. So let's make sure that we separate our perception on this. All right, let's recap. A 3-step process for successfully handling parent complaints and concerns. Number 1, make sure the parent feels completely heard. Might have to bite our tongue, might have to hear some things that we just flat out disagree with. We might even hear some things that are shots toward us. Take a deep breath. Tell yourself, I'm not going to rebut. I'm not going to say anything back. I'm just going to listen until I feel that they feel completely heard. Then, and only then, share your perspective as a coach, your position as the coach. Share that with them where you're coming from. Be sure to be as factual as possible. Use statistics or a percentage of practices attended. And number 3, partner with those parents to build a plan for success. Build it together, a success plan. Find a solution that you both agree on. Use terminology that comes across as win-win. It's a win for the kid. It's a win for the team. It's a win for everybody. In fact, if it's not a win-win, it should not be a solution that's on the table. And lastly, separate the kid from the parent when they're out there on the field. Don't hold grudges and don't mistreat the kid because you don't get along with the parent or the parent has been flat out rude or disrespectful to you. Don't let that carry over into our treatment of that 9-year-old. All right, now part 3, our last part of this podcast. Coach Brad Neffendorf, head coach LSU Shreveport University. His team recently completed a perfect 59-0 season. This is crazy. This is at the NAIA level, college level. This is good baseball. Now, I played Division I baseball in college, but I played a lot of summer ball, and there were teammates of mine that were from the NAIA level, and they were good baseball players. And there's a lot of good baseball all across the country, and to go 59-0 in a season is really unbelievable. Here are the 3 things that stood out to me when doing some digging on Coach Neffendorf and his approach and their approach to coaching up their team. And these are 3 things that we can use and utilize at our level, the youth baseball level. Before they cover anything new or before they implement anything new, they always give the players the why behind what they're doing. Now, this why needs to be as concise and as clear as possible, and it needs to come from a win-win perspective. But before covering anything new or implementing anything new with their program, with their players, with their team, they give the why behind why they're doing it. The second thing that stood out that they do a little bit better or better than your typical program. Coach Neffendorf said that he made a big commitment to not feeling the need to correct players and critique them after every mistake. If you've been with us for the last 300 episodes, there's been dozens of episodes we've talked about giving the players the why. We break it down, how to introduce new things. We've even broken down how to explain the why, the process of explaining it, not just giving the why behind what we're doing, but exactly how to lay it out, what order. And now this next one, not feeling the need to correct players and critique them after every mistake. He even says, I'm intense. I care a lot, but what's led me in games is my ability to understand that I have to wait sometimes, like explain that or correct that or critique that thing tomorrow or after the game, whether it was good or bad. The players don't want to hear it right now. This is part of building trust with players. And that's a quote from Coach Neffendorf. Now, those 2 categories, those 2 things that he does are things we can do right away with our coaching approach. Give a clear, concise why, the win-win behind what we're doing, get player buy-in. And number 2, don't feel the need to correct all the mistakes, and definitely not during a game, much less at practice. Don't feel the need to correct everything. Be calculated with your corrections. Also, praise out loud, critique quietly, or as quietly as possible. Now, the third takeaway I got from Coach Neffendorf has to do with pitching, and I'll combine 2 pitching things that I thought were interesting. If you're at a level where you're calling pitches or your pitchers throw more than one pitch, he has found a lot of success. His program found a lot of success this last season with working 2 coaches together to call pitches, kind of a check and balance. So him and his pitching coach would sit next to each other with their charts, with the hitter's information, dissecting the situation, and they would work together to call the game. They would bounce ideas off each other. I actually did this about 10 years ago. In fact, we did it all the way through a season that was a championship type of season. A team I was coaching made it all the way to the Southern California championship game. I worked with a co-pitching coach. We worked together to call, and we would, from time to time, check and balance each other. And I really like that because if you can get on the same page and keep it fluid and amicable, this can be very advantageous. So he would bounce ideas off the other pitching coach quickly, of course, because we need to keep the flow of the game going. And I'll talk about that in the second part that he likes from his pitchers. But this can be really good. Coach Neffendorf would do more of the pitch calling, and his pitching coach, Coach Schwellenbach, would focus more on guiding the pitchers in other aspects of pitching too, like the mindset, the delivery. So they work together to be more of a comprehensive, complete coaching staff to support their pitchers come game time or during the game. The other thing that's pitching related that they're big on is having their pitchers on the rubber, ready to go before the hitter's ready to go. This creates a good tempo. Infielders and outfielders almost always prefer this. It also subtly sends the message to the hitters that the pitchers are confident and ready to rock. So he's a big proponent of having his pitchers on the rubber ready to go before those hitters are even set in the box. Of course, you can't pitch before the hitter's set, but having them ready to go sends a message. It also creates a better tempo. So those are the three things that I got from Coach Neffendorf. So to recap, the three things that really stood out that Coach Neffendorf, the head coach at LSU Shreveport, used in his 59-0 season, his coaching staff, his program used, the three things that stood out the most to me. Number one, they always give the why behind anything that they're implementing or any new thing that they're going to do. Number two, Coach Neffendorf stopped feeling the need to correct and critique every mistake a player makes, especially during the game. He said, hey, that can wait till after the game. That can wait till tomorrow. I think writing things down helps coaches feel better, like we made note of it, but we don't have to shout it out, call it out at that very moment. And when it comes to pitching, he worked together with his pitching coach to kind of co-coach the pitchers during the game. And also, his pitchers are expected to be on the rubber, ready to pitch before the hitters in the box, creating a better tempo for the defense and that subtle message to the hitters that the pitchers are confident and ready to rock. All right, tons more stuff over at 8020baseball.com, articles, videos, coaching plan, drill design guide. Next week, I see a very common thing when it comes to fixing the delivery, pitching delivery, when looking to fix pitching delivery problems. I see a very common mistake when it comes to approaching this. And we're going to break this down next week. I'm going to share with you this mistake that I see so often at all levels, even with advanced pitching coaches. And we're going to talk about how not to do it, what to do instead, so we can optimize our pitcher's success much faster on a lot of different levels. All right, so that'll be next week. Excited to come back with episode 301. And as mentioned earlier in the podcast, hopefully we'll have part one of our great interview with Coach Sarancic, ready to rock next week for you. Every Tuesday coming out with a new episode. Until next week, let's keep taking care of our health so we can be at our best for our families, our close friends, our teams, our players. Let's take this information out to the field. Let's put it into play like the great Tony Gwynn used to do with 2 strikes. All right, y'all take care. Until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. We got this. Now, let's take the field.